Well, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Whatever time of the day it is that you're listening to this program, welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to myself, to my own show, because it's been almost 2 months. Now, I did tell you in my last show that I was going away for a long extended vacation, which I did. I got back a little over a week ago from the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I love it down there. Spent almost a month down there. Usually I go for a couple weeks, but did a little house sitting for a friend of mine while he was away on a 1-month cruise, and spent some time down there with a couple of cats, 3 cats actually. There was a feral cat and a dog. So, tell you, it's like having kids. But yeah, so I'm re-energized to get back into a new season. I'm sure you all are as well. Welcome back to the podcast for those of you who've been patiently, and I do mean patiently, waiting for Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff to return on a more consistent basis as you're used to. We are back. We are 100% back. And you may have noticed that I haven't yet launched on the YouTube channel. Couple reasons for that. One, I need more of you over there to subscribe. Now, I know I've mentioned a few times in my last several episodes that this channel is transitioning to YouTube and stream format, where I'll be able to do what I've always initially and always originally intended to do. And that is to have engagement, live engagement with you, the Eagle fans and the audience. And that's going to happen after over 2 years since I started this podcast, and it's becoming a reality. Now, I am out of all the steps that it's taken, all the red tape and loopholes and everything else that I've had to get through. I shouldn't say loopholes. I mean hoops that I've had to jump through. Just getting it established and linked and everything that I need to get in place so that we have a successful launch, which I wanted to do months ago. And I just really stopped talking about it and even really slowed down even having podcasts since, because I just didn't want to sound like a broken record, because I was sounding that way, saying it's coming, it's on the way, it's coming, it's going to happen, yada, yada, yada. Now, the subscriptions need to start coming. So any of you listen to this podcast, what you need to do, I know a lot of you are driving, so don't do it right now, but when you get a chance, what you need to do is go to YouTube and just type in this same exact name of the show. Spell this the right way. Geoff, meaning Geoff. So the name of the podcast is exactly the same on YouTube. All right. So you want to make sure you search in there, Philadelphia Eagles Talk, W/Geoff, Geoff, and subscribe. Now, I have some subscribers on there. Not a lot though. I need many more so we can have a successful launch. And once you guys do get on there, make sure you like and subscribe, because it's going to be grateful and helpful to the show itself and the YouTube algorithms and everything else, so we can continue to grow our Eagles audience. All right, but here's the fun part. That's a lot of me, and it's not really me. It really is for everybody. But obviously I need an audience, right? And I want you guys to not lose out by moving over to the YouTube channel, because a lot of you have been with me from the beginning, and I greatly appreciate it. I don't want you to be left behind or thinking that the show ended on the normal streams and avenues that you look through. Plus, I want to hear from you. That's the whole point of doing this. Because when I'm doing these streams now, not only will I have live guests with me, not only will you be able to view as well as listen, because you'll be able to see the content, but as an audience member, you will be able to engage. You'll be able to chat live, ask questions live, make comments live while we're doing the show, and I'll be able to address and answer any questions live. And then the next step will be eventually potentially phone calls, so you can call in or even be on the show. There's a lot of this is just going to open up so many doors. I can actually bring you on the show as well, potentially. I'm not saying it's going to happen off the bat, but these type of avenues and or doors, I should say, are open for this kind of stuff. So that is what I really can't wait to do. And I have now partnered with a stream live service along with YouTube that links right in. I'm not going to name drop them, but I found a good one, and looking forward to that relationship. And right now I'm in a holding pattern. My hopefully last one with YouTube, they did have like a 24 to 48 hour period because I was about to launch a live one this week. I still might later in the week, very possible, but we'll see. But it's coming, and if it's not going to be this week, it'll be the next week or possibly two, just to give you an idea. But the bottom line is, Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff is going live stream on YouTube. And you, as an audience member, will have other opportunities now to engage with the program other than just being a listener, which I've been forever grateful for. But I've always, like I said, from day one, if you go back to my original broadcasts, my goal was to always bring you content as a longtime Eagles fan and be able to engage with my audience. That's always been my number one goal for this platform, and it's taken a couple years to get there. So, all right, we are going to talk about the Eagles today. So I just wanted to get all that out of the way, let you know what's coming, and it is literally right around the corner now as we start the season. And I wanted to have it just a little sooner than that. I really wanted to have it set up by the draft. That didn't happen. Not everything always goes as smoothly as we all hope, but certainly want to have it all established before the season starts, and that absolutely is going to be the case. Now, we're one preseason game in for our Eagles, and I watched the game where the offense had no starters out there other than Becton, I think, was the only offensive starter that played. And Juergens, I think, Juergens didn't even play either, which was kind of surprising. I thought Juergens would get some snaps just because he's, I know he's always been a center, and they drafted him to be a center, but last year he played guard, and I thought they'd just get him some snaps so he can get back into the swing of things. But for the most part, all of the offensive starters were held out. Defensively, most of them played. I think outside of Slay, everybody was in there defensively. So they got a lot of snaps, which makes sense too because, Nick Fazio is bringing in a new defense, and the Eagles need to play. They need to get used to the adjustments and calls and all that. So I think it was a good idea to get most of the defense out there. So we saw some really long looks at some of the younger guys, especially the rookies, the rookie class, outside of Cooper DeJean, who remains injured. But I liked what I saw from Q Williams, and I liked what I saw from our boy Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He was really impressive. Trying to think who else I wanted to point out here. Some of the younger guys, not necessarily rookies, but Ringo's been very impressive. So there's a lot of guys we want to touch upon here in the podcast. The Eagles got a last-minute win against the Ravens. It was 13-13. The Eagles had a chance to win it as with about 16 seconds left in the game. But Jake Elliott missed his second field goal of the game, which is, I'm not going to call it concerning. I am not worried about Jake Elliott. He's probably shaking off some cobwebs himself, as good as he is. And last year he had an amazing season. And I hardly remember him missing anything last year. So it almost is like a shock when you see him miss. It's how good he's gotten. And that's what you want. You want to be shocked when he misses. You want to be shocked when your kicker misses. Because that means he's damn good. And we have a damn good kicker, one of the best in the league. You can even argue now that he is the best kicker in the league. You can make that argument. Tucker is amazing. The guy from Kansas City, is amazing. But those are the top three kickers in the league. Anyway, The Eagles get another chance because on the first snap after that, with about 10 seconds left, Patrick Johnson beat his man and strip sacked and recovered his own fumble. Not his own fumble, but the quarterback's fumble. But what I meant by, the fumble that he caused, got the Eagles the ball right back. And then Elliott came and drilled right down the middle. And the Eagles got a preseason win against the Ravens, who, as you know, they had the longest streak in the NFL until last year was snapped. They won like 26 or something, 25, preseason games in a row. Now they've lost the last two, I think. I don't know if it's a streak now or if maybe they won one before, before the season started last year. But let's just say they lost at least two in a row, potentially maybe two out of the last three games. But, I like what I saw overall. Kenny Pickett is a little concerning to me as the number 2. I like Pickett because he grew up an Eagles fan. But again, I just think that Tanner McKee, I thought last year he was their second best quarterback. And right now, I still think, even with Pickett here now, I still think McKee is the guy that should be getting the number 2 snaps. Maybe that starts happening. I don't know. I don't know if Kenny Pickett, because they did give away some draft capital to get him here, that they're ready to make that move yet. But if McKee keeps playing the way he is and Pickett doesn't really step it up a bit, maybe the Eagles might shed Pickett, let him go, and just, let McKee be number 2. I think McKee, he just not only shows that he can run the offense, but he's very poised. He just, nothing shakes this guy that I've seen. Now, I know this guy is not playing against number 1s. I get that. We've only seen him play against third stringers and maybe some second stringers. Totally understand that. But, man, he throws a good ball. And I'm been impressed by what I've seen from McKee as our number 2. So, I know Pickett, obviously, he's got talent. He's a former first-round pick. But there's definitely some things in his game that I'm finding not all that impressive. That's just my initial take. But, he's learning a new offense too. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt also. And you got to give him some time. But I would like to see in the second preseason game, I would like to see them give the majority of snaps to Tanner McKee. That I would like to see. I don't know if the Eagles will do that, but I would like to see it. So in training camp, because it's been a while since I've been with you guys, again, all the month of July I was down the Outer Banks on vacation. I did a show before I left. That was my last show. So that was the end of June, very end of June. So it's been, a month and a half, 6 weeks since you've heard from me. And that's all ended. We're now going to get to the point where we're going to get a couple of shows per week. And then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming once the season starts, when we do a pregame, postgame, and then we do another, it's 2 or 3 shows minimum per week as we get into it. And maybe even more than that. Once I get launched on YouTube and once we get that going, there's going to, again, open up, I might just have a live stream every week where I just talk to you. I just let you fire in questions to me. Now, it's going to take a while to build an audience to do that. I'm not going to have 1,000 people tuning in right off the bat. So we got to grow this channel together. So through word of mouth, if you're listening to the show, let your fellow Eagle fans know about it. Give them the link, send them the link rather to YouTube. Send them, make sure they're jumping on board, because once this thing's going, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. It really is. And I'm happy to have you guys on for the ride. All right. So training camp, Cooper DeJean got hurt early on in camp. So our, second number 1 pick in last year's draft, or was he a number 2 pick? He was a second round pick. He's got a hamstring injury, which tends to linger. So they got to be careful with him. They are being careful with him, but he's losing valuable time, not only in training camp, but now he's not getting any snaps in preseason. I don't have an ETA. I haven't heard anything recently about when he's due to come back. I heard initially it was like maybe 3 weeks. We're already at the 3-week mark. So I don't know, I'm sure they're going to be cautious with him, but again, he's losing valuable snaps and valuable time as he's missing most, if not all, of training camp so far and the preseason. What else do I want to talk about? So, talked about Pickett. The whole Jalen Hurts thing that blew up again with Sirianni. There was some ESPN article that came out that was talking about how there was a very much a strained relationship between the two last year. Listen, you will remember what I said towards the end of last year when the Eagles collapse happened, and I said it's going to come out somehow. I don't know when, but at some point we're going to find out what the hell happened to this team because after a 10-1 start, that team couldn't beat the Giants by the end of the season. They were getting beat by everybody. And I even said I think they're the worst team in football by the end of the season. So how does that happen? There's teams that have collapsed, but how do you collapse that badly? That's never a talent thing when that happens. There's always something internally that is festering or boiling from beneath that causes that type of collapse where the team is playing so badly after being 10-1. And we found out that there was a major issue with Hurts and Sirianni. Lack of trust, broken relationship, however you want to, read into it. But they weren't on the same page. We'll just keep it that way because I don't know if we're going to get all the details. Probably not. But we got enough to understand that right now, that last year, there was an issue with the head coach and your quarterback. And that's never good. And I definitely think, and I've said all along, that the other issue was the fact that they had an offensive coordinator and defense coordinator last year, both new to their positions, that I think the league caught up with by the time we got to 10-1. 49ers came in there and smashed the Eagles, then the Cowboys came in and destroyed them, and then they basically never recovered from that. And then once you always find out the real chemistry and the real roots of your team when they're losing, not when they're winning. When everything's all great, the roses are smelling fine, everything tastes good. That's not when you really find out the true character of your team. It's when you face adversity. It's when you face a losing streak and need to dig yourself out of it. And the Eagles were not ever able to do that last year. And they actually got progressively worse as the season went on and into the playoffs. They got worse. So, and then they made dumb decisions on top of it. Which again, I spent episodes towards the end of last year talking about how they should never have started their starters in that Giants game on one of the worst fields in the league just before they go into the playoffs. This was a team that had an early bye. They're beaten up. They were, they needed a break. Perfect opportunity to give them a bye and not play their starters and just focus on Tampa Bay. Perfect opportunity was set up for them on a silver platter. Don't have to risk any injury. But nope, they send their starters out there. A.J. Brown gets injured, and we lose Sidney Brown, not only for the last year, but most of this year. I mean, there's some reports now that he's not going to be back for a while. I don't know what's going on. I heard all along that he was doing very well, but, there's some reports I'm hearing you're not going to see him till the end of this season, or at least the second half of this season. I mean, I know he had an ACL tear late in the season, so when you look at it, it's not all that surprising with an injury like that. But he was making such great progress, and he was been in camp, not really participating, but he's been there. And maybe I got a little overly optimistic that we'll see him early in the season, but it looks like we're not going to see Sidney Brown for a while this year. And that was another injury that could have been prevented, but no. So they made stupid coaching decisions as well. And we are. But a lot has changed. Obviously, we have a new offensive coordinator. We have a new defensive coordinator. Both of these guys, seasoned veterans. They know what they're doing. They've run the defense before. They've run the offense before very successfully. So the hands of the organization on the two respective offensive defense now are under good tutelage. Guys who know what they're doing. That's a plus. But it does come with a change. And this, the offense is learning a new offense again. Hurts has got to learn a new offense all over again. And our defense again, for the second straight season, is learning a whole new defense. And that's always a concern. It was last year, especially since they were new guys with no experience at their positions. This year, at least, we have experienced guys, but it's still new. And so it could be a choppy start to the season. I still think that's very possible. Until everything starts gelling. Now, there's so much talent in offense, they might be able to get by, even though they're not gelling at full strength or, at top speed or top efficiency, because they're so talented offensively. They're going to be able to get away with some things or more things than defense. So keep that in mind as we move forward here. Saquon Barkley, as we know, we have a new running back this season. The old Giant superstar is now an Eagle. He looks good in Eagles green. It's going to be interesting to see him out there, when he gets his first carries. I don't know if he'll probably get some carries, imagine, at some point in the preseason, but he won't get a lot, but it's going to be fun to watch him in the Eagles uniform this year, especially when he does play the Giants. Who the Eagles owe, by the way. I mean, the Giants fans are unbelievable. Some of them I've been listening to are like, oh, we kicked the Eagles' ass last year. I'm like, really? Dude, everybody was beating the Eagles' ass towards the end of last year. They like are wearing it like it's some kind of badge. Like, hey, we beat the Eagles, and we not only beat them, but we beat them bad. We beat them up. I mean, come on now. That team was a shell of its former self by the time you play that second game. So that's all right. Let them have some false hope thinking they can beat the Eagles this year. That's fine. We got your best player. And the whole Sirianni situation is going to be interesting. If there's any hot seat, it is his. I think all of the writings on the wall that the Eagles did, they basically told them to back off, let Kellen Moore run the offense, Nick Fangio run the defense, and he sits back and just kind of plays what am I trying to say here? He kind of just oversees the operations from a coaching standpoint. All right, and basically is the one that communicates the central message and theme of the season. And if the Eagles are not successful this year, I think Sirianni's gone. So everything appears to be patched up between Hurts and Sirianni. Again, we'll see if it truly is, if the Eagles face any adversity. If they start off 0-3, what happens? If they're 1-4 at the end of, beginning of October, what's the mood of the locker room? What's going on? Those are the things you have to monitor to watch, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on that as we move forward here with the program and the podcast. So, but how cool is it to see the impressive performance by Jeremiah Trotter Jr. for a guy who is in his first preseason game as a professional, blowing up blockers, getting his hands off blockers and pursuing the ball, getting a sack. Very impressive performance by Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who I think is making a push to actually be a starter. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think he's definitely going to be on the active roster the way he's performing. So, and it's great to see a 54 out there, and it's great to see Trotter on the back of that uniform. Mo Williams, I think, is a guy that is always under the radar, except for when you listen to this podcast. Whenever I mention him, I talk about how important this guy is, how versatile he is on the defensive line. And without Fletcher Cox here this year, folks, he's going to be an even bigger part of this defense. He's a guy that I think the Eagles need to try to sew up if they can. Now, his agent, of course, is going to say, he's going to be basically a starter this year, or certainly get a lot more snaps. He's going to be able to put a lot more on tape than he already has. And he's going to be a guy that as he gets more snaps, if he plays at the level he has in his career so far as an Eagle, he's going to put some good tape out there. And the agent's going to jack up his asking price to keep him. And it probably in his position, if you're him, you probably do want to get out the free agency and see what your actual worth is. Because to me, he's very, very good. And he's kind of under the radar, which is why if you're Howie, and I would imagine Howie probably has already had some of these talks with his agent. I'm sure Howie wants to get him locked up if he can. You can't give him a lot of money because you got a lot that's coming up with Jordan Davis and then eventually Carter as well. You know, you got to have at least some guys that are economical, but you got to give him some money to keep him here for sure and not have him go to free agency. So I would imagine Howie would like to do that, but his agent, I'm sure, and even the player himself, is probably like, look, I love it here and all that kind of thing, but if he can make 2x, 3x somewhere else and be a starter, you can't really knock him for that. I just think Mo Williams is a guy that I guess we're really lucky he's here this year at least. So we can give Jordan Davis another year and Carter another year under a belt without Fletcher Cox here, where they have a guy that they can bring in and be there for either one of them to obviously give them a blow when he needed rest and obviously work with him on the line as well. I mean, he could play end as well. He's played end before, Williams, so his versatility comes into play too. So, Quentin Williams, we know he looks like he's playing more slot than he is actual corner. They just have more of a need right now in the slot area, so we may see him potentially as the starting nickel cornerback in this defense before they move him out to the corner slot. So it's interesting how that's going to kind of happen here because you have Kelly Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers who are kind of battling it out for the other cornerback spot as far as a starter. And I called him Quentin, but I mean Quinyon Mitchell. What was I calling him? The heck, man. I was calling him the wrong name. Williams. I was calling him Quentin Williams. Sorry. Quinyon Mitchell. I don't know why I was saying. I got him confused with Mo Williams, I guess. I don't know. Quinyon Mitchell, our number one draft pick, is the more than likely going to be the slot corner, at least to start the season, with Kelly Ringo and Isaiah Rodgers, the guy they got from the Colts, who didn't play last year because of the NFL suspension with the gambling issue. Those two guys seem to be battling it out for the corner slot opposite of Darius Slay. Then you still have Zach McPherson, folks, a guy that he was coming on last year early in the season when he tore his, I think it was his Achilles he tore, right? And never played a down in the regular season. I think he got hurt in the last preseason game. But he's back, and he's been playing very well, and he's a good special teams guy. So it'll be interesting to see as you go to the lower part of the depth of who they decide to keep. Because you got Josh Jobe in there, Eli Ricks, McPherson. They're going to be all battling it out for one of those last final corner spots. Of course, Avonte Maddox is still in the mix. Right now, he's kind of playing safety, because the Eagles' depth is really, really low on the safety position right now with Garner Johnson's a little banged up. He's going to be fine, but right now he's a little banged up. Reed Blankenship, there's not much behind him at all, really not. Linebacker position, we talked about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. He's battling with Zach Bond for that starting spot. And then you got, of course, Devin White and Nakobe Dean battling for the other spot. And Nakobe Dean, by the way, continues to be a disappointment. I mean, let's just face it. I have been wrong. And I'm not wrong often, for those of you who've been with me for a long time. But this is one prediction that does not look good for me. I said when they drafted Nakobe Dean that he'd be the captain of the defense by year 3. And right now we are in year 3, and he's not going to be captain this year. So definitely wrong. He's not even starting. So now it's been injuries has been what's held him back, not necessarily his play, but when he's been in there, he has not been all that impressive. Let's face it. He's been a disappointment, and I'm not going to use the B word yet. Not going to use the B word yet, but he is right on the fringe of being a bust. But I need to see more of him for sure. And then you have Ben Sumarin, who, whenever he plays, that guy impresses me. He's a good depth guy to have. I would definitely try to hold on to him. Oren Burks, haven't seen much of him. That's the guy they got from the 49ers because he's been banged up, so he hasn't played much. On the line, you have, of course, Sweat. I think he's the only other one that didn't suit up, other than Slay for defense last at the preseason game against the Ravens. Nolan Smith got a sack. He's looking better. He's definitely looking better. He's showing some signs that we really need. I mean, they need Smith to take a step. He definitely has. In fact, we'd really like to see him take 2 steps. Jalix Hunt, the sort of project player that they drafted in the 3rd round, looked pretty good. I mean, you could see the raw talent this guy has. It's definitely there. But it's probably going to take him a while to learn the game a little bit more and obviously get used to the physicality of going against pros when he was at such a small school in college. But the playmaking ability and the athletic ability is there for this guy, for sure. Milton Williams, we talked about him already. Of course, you got Carter and Davis. And then you got Ajomo, who is another guy that I like a lot. So if they let Williams go, maybe Ajomo's ready to step in, and be that 3rd rotation guy. But I like Ajomo, too, the guy that got drafted out of Texas. Another guy, I just like hearing what he says. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He looks like a beast. So hopefully he continues to take some strides. And an underrated guy, too, is Marlon Tupeloto, the guy from USC. Whenever he's in there, he's just solid. He's a solid guy. So defensively and the defensive tackle, I think the Eagles are in really good shape. And you definitely want to see Jalen Carter become a star. I mean, an absolute star. You want to see him start dominating the line. And you want to see Jordan Davis take a step too, because he is a huge key to this defense. Bryce Huff, a lot of people are criticizing him right now because they're not seeing much through training camp or even preseason. Now, I don't think he played much. He played a little bit in the preseason game, which he didn't really do much. But a lot of criticism starting to head his way because it's just not seeing. We're used to having, Reddick here. I mean, these guys coming in to replace Reddick. And we're not seeing the Reddick type of, impact right now from him. But I'm not going to sit there and say that this guy's not going to be able to give us that. But, he's going to have to start showing it pretty soon, at least by opening day. Brandon Graham, of course, is going to give us as many snaps as he can as he's in his last year as an Eagle. And, BG's going to – his biggest influence, I think, in this team this year is going to be just leadership and helping these guys up front, I don't know how much you're going to really expect from him in terms of, impact on the field. But we'll see. I think you'd probably be able to give a handful of good snaps every game. Oh, let's see what else I want to cover. Britton Covey also, by the way, geez, I can't speak. Britton Covey is also getting a lot of work in as the slot wide receiver. And he's opening some eyes at his ability to do that. Now, that's mainly because they've had issues, with the 3rd slot guy and trying to figure out who that's going to be. Because Paris Campbell, who seemed to have a big edge early on in camp, got injured. So he's been out for the last few weeks. And because of that, he's allowed Covey to get more snaps. And guys like Ross, the former 1st-round pick from the Bengals, has gotten some looks there in the slot. And Aeneas Smith, so far, the late-round wide receiver that the Eagles drafted, doesn't look all that good. Has dropped a lot of passes. He may not even make the team. I don't know. He's not looking like he wants to take that 3rd slot. So you got John Ross and Paris Campbell. as well as Covey, probably the three leading guys. Paris Campbell had the hold on that until he got injured, which has opened the door, like I said, for some other guys to take it. Now, the one guy that's kind of been really under the radar, that's kind of come on, is Johnny Wilson. Now, I watched him play in the preseason game. I didn't find him all that impressive. He's a big guy. He's got some size, but I saw him drop a pass or two. Now, he's a guy that wasn't even supposed to make the team. So, he's definitely in training camp been very good. So, but I need to see more of him in the preseason before I make any judgment on that guy. So next up for the Eagles, they will have a combined practice this week with the Patriots before they actually play them in a second preseason game later this week. So that's next up for the Eagles. We will definitely have another show to come back and talk about the results of that, recap that second preseason matchup as the Eagles prepare for the regular season. Of course, as we know, they're starting the regular season on a Friday night in Brazil against one of the better teams in the NFC. It's going to be a really good matchup against Justin Love and the Green Bay Packers in Brazil, which counts as an Eagles home game, which sucks. Let's just face it. It just sucks for the Eagles. And it's against a tough team on a Friday night. So interesting. That's going to be an interesting game right off the bat. Sorry, my voice is a little bit scratchy today. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else I want to talk about here. I know it's been a while since I've chatted with you. I want to make sure I've covered all the bases that I wanted to. And again, the next level up for this podcast is streaming live on YouTube, and I want you to be there with me. I want to hear from you. I will be able to hear from you. And I hope that you will enjoy the next level of this podcast because it will be visual as well as audio. So you'll be able to not only see the content, see myself and the guests that I have on, but also be able to engage with us. And that's the most important thing. That's what I've always wanted to do. And I'm really excited about it. And I hope you are too, because this show is nothing without you guys. I'd be just talking to myself, and that's no fun. All right, folks. Well, with that being said, thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you spread the word about Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff, because we're going to do this together. We're going to build this channel together. We're going to build this podcast together. And I'm glad to have you aboard. So until next time, thank you again for tuning in to Philadelphia Eagles Talk with Geoff. We'll be back to recap the Patriots-Eagles preseason game later in the week. Make sure you come for that. And I look forward to chatting with you about it at that time. We'll catch you later. Go Birds!